Well, it's Monday, the 18th, 2023. From wherever you're watching us in Kenya and around the world, good evening. This is KBC Prime Edition coming to you from Broadcasting House right here in the capital city. Tonight, we have lined up a number of stories for you. Remember, later on Government Scorecard, we are delighted to host the CS in charge of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts, Ababu Namwamba, and that's coming later on. There you can see him coming in. Tonight, we have lined up a number of questions for him. We are asking you as well, what would you want the CS Namwamba to implement at his ministry? Remember, quite many quick wins already for him. Resolution at the FKF and government dispute that saw the lifting of Kenya, KFF. We also saw him mediating with the World Athletics on the Kenya's anti-doping program. So you don't want to miss that. We encourage you to send in any questions that you may have at our X, which is at KBC Channel 1. Get involved, interact with us, ask those questions on behalf of the larger Kenyan audience, and of course the CS will be here to respond to all those questions. There he is walking in, and in a bit we'll be linking up with him. But while he walks in and settles, we want to take a look at the other stories that we have also put together for you tonight on this live broadcast. That includes the day's business. We also have local stories, and of course a little later on we're going to look at the day's sports. But first things first, on this live broadcast, let's look at the executive summary of our top stories. Rubber about to meet the road. Acid test for bipartisan talk committee as both sides disagree on the fate of reconstituting IEBC. Protect me from my tormentors. Ex-Mungiki leader Maina Njenga wants court protection after alleged abduction ordeal. Tragedy engulfs a village. Horror as 6 members of the same family are burnt beyond recognition in Midnight Inferno. Many thanks indeed for joining us. Remember, we're going to have the CS Sports a little later on. What would you want CS Ababu Namwamba to implement at his ministry? Speak to us, our socials at KBC Channel 1. Interact with us on that platform. The question of the day, what would you want Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba to implement at his ministry? There you are. That's the question once again. What would you want the CS Namwamba to implement at his ministry? Remember, we're going to interact with him live in studio a little later on. So start tweeting, send in your questions, your comments, and of course we'll be looking at them a little later on. Tonight, 2 people in charge of the sign language docket, Susan Thuku and our colleague Brian Mararo. Remember, it's World Deaf Day. Now, our top story: sharp divisions have rocked the bipartisan talks committee over the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission ahead of the oral submissions by the IEBC Secretariat and the selection panel set for Friday. While the reconstitution of the electoral body began in February, the Azimio side has demanded for a fresh political process to fill in 4 vacant positions. And as Giverson Maina reports, IEBC Chief Executive Officer Hussein Marjan and IEBC Selection Panel Chair Dr. Nelson Makanda will be the first set to appear before the team, with oral submission process for all stakeholders slated to last a whole week. Here's that report.
The National Dialogue Committee, engaging in the bipartisan talks between the government and the opposition, will start hearing oral submissions from various stakeholders on Friday this week. And as the committee prepares for the process, sharp divisions have emerged within its ranks over the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The reconstitution of IEBC began in February after President William Ruto gazetted the Dr. Nelson Makanda-led selection panel. Azimio, on the other hand, have stuck on their guns that the reconstitution must be akin to the inter-parties parliamentary group process. The Dello committee has admitted that it is yet to find consensus on the matter and is therefore not certain on the way forward.
We don't want the media to walk out of here saying all agreed, because we all know, for example, there's convergence of the need to reconstitute the IEBC, but the how is not been agreed.
The co-chairs of the talks now say they have invited the IBC Secretariat and the IBC Selection Panel to submit their views in an open forum.
Among those groups that we'll be inviting this Friday is the Secretariat of the IEBC, with the working group on the 2/3 gender rule, the working group as established by the ministry, and the IEBC Selection Panel as established by statute. We shall be engaging with them beginning this Friday, amongst other groups.
After the conclusion of the stakeholders forum, expected to last a week, the committee will therefore discuss proposals tabled by the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions in an attempt to break the deadlock.
We shall then sit and now begin that difficult work of being able to bring all those views, those from our side and those from our colleagues' side, and benefiting from the knowledge of other Kenyans, putting them together, and hopefully within the 60 days, at the end of the 60 days that we gave ourselves, be able to come up with a report that we have resolved all the issues that we put before us.
In light of the increased palm prices, the Azimio side insists it has not abandoned the discussion on the cost of living.
The difficult issue of the high cost of living, we will deal with it as an interim measure. How do we look at it? So that, again, I know that there will be probably memoranda that we presented, but these are some of the issues on our side, for example, and we know that Kenya Kwanza have their list of interim measures.
The National Dialogue Committee has prioritized matters reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, even as the IBC Selection Panel and the IBC Secretariat are set to table their views this Friday. Give us in mind a Prime Edition at the Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi.
Of course, that's the story. We have our pulse on the story there. Ex-Mungiki leader Maina Njenga wants the court to issue him with protection orders, citing police harassment. While explaining his weekend ordeal with his alleged abductors, Njenga says that he fears for his life, claiming hooded officers abducted him in Kiambu and released him on Sunday night in an attempt to interfere with his appearance in court Monday morning.
The ex-Mungiki leader appeared in court on Monday for the pre-trial of a case where he was charged alongside two others of being in possession of crude weapons in March this year. Njenga was released by his alleged abductors Sunday night after they grabbed him from Banana area in Kiambu County on Saturday. He now claims the abduction was an infringement on his rights and an attempt to interfere with the case. Njenga claims after being blindfolded, he was whisked away to an unknown destination and interrogated in a dark room by people he alleges are police officers.
Wale ambao walitushika hiyo wakati si watu ambao hawajulikani, ni wale watu tumekuwa na wao kwa hii kesi. Tunawajua, tunafahamu vizuri, na maswali ni yale ya kesi tu. Tungetaka kuambia Wakenya kama kesi imepelekwa kotini, ni wajibu wa jaji mwenyewe adili na kesi, si kesi inaenda kuprosecutiwa kwa manyumba.
His lawyers now want the court to issue protection orders against what they term as incessant incidents of harassment.
First accused and third accused were again abducted by the police officers. These police officers were wearing boots, concealing their identity. While they were abducting them, they knew that they were supposed to come before you today to answer to the summons.
Then they were kept incommunicado for almost 36 hours. They were released yesterday. So we wanted Your Honor to intervene. My learned colleague, Mr. Dewa, will give you more insights about it. But we want this court to intervene to protect the suspects.
Makadara Chief Magistrate Tito Gesora says he will deal with the matter as means of insulating the case from interference.
Suffice it to say that no one should be treated or subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment. And if at the end of the day it is demonstrated that there was such treatment and it impacted on the due process and the trial, then it will definitely, you will know that it will definitely count towards what kind of decision I will make.
Elsewhere, the Director of Public Prosecutions has applied for an extension of custody for controversial Shakahola cult leader Paul Mackenzie and his 27 co-accused persons for another 180 days. The DPP claims that despite their confinement for over 5 months, the police have yet to conclude their investigations into the deaths of over 429 in Shakahola forest. Police say that the DNA profiling of the bodies exhumed from the forest is delicate, costly, laborious and time-consuming. Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda will rule on the matter on October 12th.
Kuna ofisi ya afisa wa kifungo cha nje wanasema hawajaweza kukamilisha ripoti zao. Wamehoji baadhi yenu na kuna familia zenu zimehojiwa, nafikiri familia 9 kama walivyoeleza. Kwa hiyo wanasema kwamba wanahitaji muda wa mwezi mzima ili kukamilisha ripoti zao. Na wameeleza kwamba kuna baadhi yenu ambao hawataki kutoa taarifa. Kwa hiyo inakuwa vigumu kukamilisha ripoti zao.
Michael Mundiga for Prime Edition.
President William Ruto is expected to lead Kenya's delegation to the 78th United Nations General Assembly to be held in New York in the United States of America. President Ruto, who's currently in the US, will attend the high-level segment of the annual United Nations meeting set to begin Tuesday. The president is expected to present the country's strong position on climate change and global financial markets. Among issues expected to take center stage include the climate crisis and the war in Ukraine, as more than 140 leaders and state representatives from around the world assembled in New York to address the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The theme of the General Assembly is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity, accelerating action on the 2030 Agenda and its sustainable development goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, as well as sustainability for all. This will be President William Ruto's second address to the General Assembly since his election last year. On to that disturbing story from Kericho. A family of 6 has perished in a midnight inferno at Tumoik village in Konyak Ward, Kipkelion West constituency. The cause of the fire is yet to be established, but locals allege that a solar battery and petrol inside the house may have been the cause of the fire. Efforts to put out the fire by neighbors were futile. Farah Yusuf with that story.
This is what remained after a midnight fire tore through this homestead. Villagers of Tumoek in shock after the fire destroyed property and also left 6 family members dead. According to eyewitnesses, the fire was too large to contain.
Kufika hapo tukajaribu kuokoa tukashindwa. Nyumba imechomeka, nyumba yote imeenda chini. Imechomeka kabisa.
Tulisikia mayowe, watoto walikuwa wanapiga nduru. Tukakimbia. Tulipofika hapa tukapata moto ilikuwa imejaa sana. Hatukuweza kuokoa hawa. Pale tu moto ilikuwa mwingi sana.
Confirming the incident, Area Assistant Chief Alice Yegon pointed at poor roads and low network signals as a major impediment to rescue efforts, even as she called for speedy intervention.
Sasa kufika hapa, there is a great challenge in traveling to save the situation. At the same time, as it is raining now, to pass the river is a problem. Hatuna booster. Na tukiwa na booster, itaweza tusaidia tuokoe watu wengine.
The remains of the 6 have been taken to St. Vincent Hospital morgue. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Over 40% of married women in Kenya have experienced a form of physical and partner sexual violence in their union. That's according to a demographic and health survey conducted in 2022. 4 out of 10 women have separately reported being victims of domestic violence or social abuse. Gender Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa says many women suffer silently from gender-based violence, with 43% of women holding to the belief that a man must beat his wife.
The demographic and health survey conducted in 2022 bears the harsh reality of gender-based violence in the country. The report revealing grim statistics of women who have been subjected to gender-based violence in one form or the other. The report revealing that 40% of women are suffering silently and being subjected to GBV, while another 43% believe that a man must beat his wife, revealing the extent to which the vice has assumed the face of normalcy.
Every 4 out of 10 married women in Kenya have reported being victims or either of domestic violence or social abuse. Girls and young women, on the other hand, are increasingly facing intimate partner violence, which amounts to domestic violence.
Among the rural population, 51% of women and 40% of men agreed that wife beating is justified.
In yet another shocking set of statistics, the report showed that 23% of girls are being married off before they attain the age of 18, while the rate of female genital mutilation practice stands at 21%. Gender Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa has called for concerted efforts among stakeholders to protect women and victims of gender-based violence. The government has in the meantime launched the National Protection Against Domestic Violence rules amid calls for the implementation of the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act of 2015.
So when we have the laws, we also have to sensitize. I mean, the skit here today showed a policewoman that was a bit insensitive, you know. It was a bit comical. That person who's coming is so aggrieved, is broken.
It not only impacts negatively on their physical health, but also on the mental health, and may lead to self-harm, isolation, depression, suicidal attempts, and domestic violence meted on children.
The rules emphasize the importance of prevention and early intervention. They underline the need and responsibility by legal duty bearers to handle survivors with compassion.
The unveiled rules will aid the prevention and a coordinated approach to intervention and provision of expected holistic support by agencies and the community at large. The rules also seek to hold accountable perpetrators of the vice.
Well, before I take our first break, we just want to remind you a question of the day we're asking you. Remember, immediately after this first short break here on Prime Edition, we're going to host the Cabinet Secretary who is in charge of Sports, Youth Affairs and Arts, Babu Namwamba. And there you are. That's the question we're asking. What would you want the Cabinet Secretary to implement in his ministry? What would you want the Cabinet Secretary to implement in his ministry? Engage with us on our socials at KBC Channel 1. Would be glad and happy to ask any questions that you may be having later on after this fast break. Do stay with us.
Usiwe mtazamaji pekee, shiriki kwenye Lucky Game na pia wewe unaweza jishindia kama Sheila.
Nimeshinda TV 55 inch. Nimeshinda
na imefika star 570 hash. Chagua Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Choose one of the boxes ambayo unahisi kwamba iko na bahati yako. Cheza sasa hivi mahali popote wakati wowote. Kumbuka ni star 570 hash. Jishindie. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Are you seriously saying that, Alba?
Your brother-in-law's life is hanging by a thread, and you're worrying how to make sure that the numbers add up? You were unbelievable.
Relax, don't be so tense. Rodolfo, come quickly, Sergio's awake. There goes more money.
Tell us who hired you to hurt this man. Who? Speak up!
Amparo Reveles.
I overheard something that I'd like to believe was Sergio's hallucination. He said he is in love with you, Isabel. Now please, tell me that isn't true. I cannot believe this.
Wagwan watu wangu ni Furthermore hapa and you're watching Grapevine.
You know what this right here is?
Grapevine, baby.
Its tradition, Oktoberfest promises an unforgettable celebration of the region's rich cultural diversity.
Welcome back. A little later on, shortly we will be hosting the CS in charge of sports. And before we get there, let's just walk you through a few quick wins that the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Arts and Sports have been able to achieve. You see, the first item there is the question of resolution of the FKF and the government dispute that saw Kenya's ban lifted. Remember, Kenya had been banned by the world governing body for 9 months. The CS coming in and negotiating. And today, we're extremely proud that FKF is back. Of course, the CS also mediated the World Athletics on the Kenyans anti-doping program. You remember, that was a question that was really putting us out there on the global front and touching on our reputation. And the CS coming in and saying, no, we've got to deal with this. And that was sorted out. But of course, it's still work in progress, I believe. The recognition of the Kenyan sporting and arts legends. That was also a good one, and I think we're going to talk about it later on, whether there's a framework that recognizes those who made contributions in the past. That is one I can attest to. I received a call personally from one of the legendary sports people, extremely happy that they received a token from the government. We're going to touch on that a little bit. The launch of the Talanta Hela initiative that seeks to nurture and monetize talent in the performing and creative arts. Remember, a huge percentage of that demographic today are in that space of arts and creative arts. We're also going to talk a little bit about that. Remember, my generation is diminishing. The one that is growing is the one at the base of the social pyramid. So we also have the creation of the sports infrastructure master plan. The CS will give us an executive overview of the structure of that master plan and how they intend to advance towards the true north with it. The global collaboration for youth through the Kenya National Innovation Week, Commonwealth edition slated for November 2023. The CS is going to talk to us about that. There's also the Youth Connect Africa Summit that Kenya is hosting between the 18th and 30th. It's going to run all the way to the 13th of December. So we're going to look forward to some of those things because I believe they're well within the strategic plans that the CS has put ever since he took charge of the docket ministry. CS, let me just take this opportunity to thank you sincerely for finding time out of your busy schedule to just come and talk to your people, the lovers of sports.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, to set the ball rolling, yesterday I was watching the rugby boys, Shujaa, in South Africa, and I could believe that, they came out so strong, and we saw what they did to South Africa in Harare. And, of course, that means that perhaps now 2024 Paris, the boys might be going on the rampage there. But I just want to, first of all, get your reflections on what that win meant for you when the final whistle was blown. What was going through your heart? What was going through your mind? Because we've had a bit of issues in the rugby space, and we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was on the tenterhooks, holding my breath during that final game. But I had tracked the progress of that team while they were in training before they traveled to Harare. And then from game one. And they performed pretty well. They actually got to the final without losing a single game. They played extremely well in each of the build-up games. And so they got into the final with good momentum. Of course, South Africa, without a doubt, the so-called Blitz South African team were the favorites. But we had good momentum. And I really, really wanted this team to do well, because it was an opportunity for us to test the new beginning. We have a new leadership at the Kenya Rugby Union. We have had a very candid conversation with the new leadership of the Rugby Union. We have put a lot of emphasis on investing in raw talent. During the World Under-20 Championship that Kenya hosted, we tested quite a bit of the youngsters, and we made it clear to the coaches that be bold, be brave, don't be afraid to try some fresh talents, and for me, so I see this as a signal that Rugby Sevens, which is a big brand here in Kenya, is on the up. Is on the up, and getting to the Paris Olympics. I mean, the Olympics is the pinnacle of sports in the world. That is the stage where every athlete, every sportsman and woman dreams to showcase their talent at the Olympics. And so I'm very, very happy for the Shujaas. We'll be hosting them to breakfast tomorrow. To say hongera is.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So the follow-up question to that would be, because I know even as a ministry, you'd want to sort of, build on that momentum, as you rightly put it. You remember Kenya, sevens aside team after relegation from the World Sevens, it took the route that the national cricket team also took. And we all remember the national cricket team was once a powerhouse. So, I can relate with how excited you are with this win in Zimbabwe. But it's also important for us to hear from you, concrete steps that you intend to take, so that, this sport of rugby goes back to where it was. What framework do you have, to revitalize this sport, and bring it back to its old days when it was a powerhouse?
The magic lies in three simple things, and it is all about going back to the basics. Number one, we have to invest in a very deliberate, intentional, structured manner in talent identification and progression. We stagnated in the game of rugby, just like we did with the game of cricket. We stagnated. We had this pool of very talented players at one time, some kind of golden generation, the Humphrey Kayanges and that generation. And so you sort of got into a moment where you thought this gravity train would roll on forever. And we forgot to keep the pipeline of talents flowing.
Continue.
So, task number one, and that is why for me Talanta Hela here is a silver bullet, is to create a deliberate pipeline, is to create a conveyor belt where you continuously identify and develop talent. Next week, I'll be visiting Koyonzo Boys. Why am I visiting Koyonzo Boys School in Matungu in Western Kenya? Because Koyonzo Boys have just won the East African Sevens Games for schools. There must be something that this group of school boys have done to rise to the top of East African School Sevens Games. And I have told the Sevens technical bench, I have told Sasha Mutai at the Kenya Rugby Union that you must be able to look at this kind of players. In last month in August, under the Talanta Hela initiative, we hosted Kenya's first ever national talent camp where we brought about 2,000 school children to Nairobi for talent camp. And during that talent camp, I invited all federations. Among the federations that were part of that camp were the Kenya Rugby Union. And our message was clear. Tap into the talent pool in schools, in colleges, in community teams. Then you have a continuous flow of talents to feed these teams. And when you do that, you are guaranteed. That is what South Africa does. That's what Samoa does. That's what New Zealand does. That is what the best rugby playing teams do, or the rugby playing nations do. Number two, we have to manage sports better. The federation, those who have the responsibility of running sports, they have to be serious. They have to know that in sports, the sportsman, the sportswoman is the king, is the queen, is the goose that lays the golden egg.
Absolutely.
We cannot run federations where we give more prominence to officials and we forget that the most important person here, who even makes the federation relevant, is the sportsman and woman.
Absolutely.
So we have to run sports in a manner that is sportsman, sportswoman centric or athlete centric. Number two, we have to be accountable. We have to be transparent in the way we manage sports. And finally, we must mobilize partnerships that are beneficial to attracting resources into sports. You may want to know that at one time, all the corporate sponsors that previously invested in rugby had taken flight. They had taken off.
Why?
Because of mismanagement. If you mismanage resources given to you, you see, corporates work hard to make their profits. And if they're working hard to make profits and sharing their profits with you in terms of sponsorship, and you waste those resources, they're not going to sit there and watch you waste their resources. They will take off.
Absolutely.
And that is why, by the time we were taking office about a year ago, there was barely any corporate sponsorship in sports because of mismanagement. And so, for us to ensure that we have resources, because to develop talents, you need resources. To train players, you need resources. If you see the kind of training teams that we battle with go through, they do really, really elite training. That takes resources. Government cannot do it alone. Government is making an incredible effort. Like all these teams we are talking about, you talked about the Rugby Sevens, the Shujaa. The other day, Malkia Strikers qualified for the Olympics, also winning the African title. We have just had our Boxers, the hit squad in Dakar, Senegal, also participating in the African qualifiers for the Olympics. And before they went to Dakar, I had sent them to Havana, Cuba for elite training ahead of the qualifiers. All that kind of preparation is critical in making Team Kenya competitive. And that takes investment.
It takes a lot of investment.
And government is saying, federations, manage your space well, so that as government invests, corporate sponsors will also have the confidence to join government in putting resources in this.
And put their money in there.
So, mambo mangapi?
Matatu.
Mambo matatu. Invest in the athlete, run the federation effectively and properly, and then attract corporate sponsorship.
And the three things that I've heard people, say about you is that, number one, you have a radical muscle, and you have the diplomacy to effect changes. And at the sports docket, you also have the goodwill, political goodwill from His Excellency the President. And so my next question would be around the federations, because when you took charge at the sports docket, one of the things you promised to do, in fact, somebody reminded me that you read the Riot Act to the federations. So how much ground, because this is 1 year on, do you think your ministry has covered in dealing with the non-compliant federations? Because you have identified where the pain point is. So going forward, what would you tell the country are the things that you have sort of worked on to deal with those who are in conflict with the law, those who are sabotaging the sport, etc., the federations?
Let me tell you, the reality of life, if you are a sailor and you board a badly leaking vessel, a badly leaking ship, your first task is not look for the compass, because your first task is not to determine which direction. Your first task is to rescue the vessel. You have to first of all find out where is the leak, seal the leak, rescue the ship, steady the boat. Then after you have steadied the boat and you have stopped the leaking, then you can start looking for the compass. You can start asking, hey, where was the compass? Where was the map? Now, which direction? That is exactly the situation we found ourselves in when we took this ministry about a year ago. We found a sporting scene in a total mess. Football frozen. Athletics threatened by an imminent ban. And World Athletics made it very clear to me that at the next council meeting of World Athletics, we are going to ban Kenya. Because doping has reached crisis levels. We found a scenario where athletes who had competed for this country like 10, 15 years ago had not been paid their allowances, their reward money. So you had a very dispirited group of athletes.
10, 15 years ago.
When we did the Hongera Awards last August, we were paying debts going back to 2010 to 2007. And it was like, how? How does an athlete compete and you just sit on their reward money and you sit on their allowances? So generally we found a space that was completely at the bottom. And as I've already said, corporate sponsors had taken off. Even live broadcasts. Kenyans had gotten accustomed to live broadcasts of football, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Live broadcasters had taken off.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the very dim situation we inherited.
Even the fans at the stadiums, they took off. They followed the corporates.
You know, last Tuesday, when Harambee Stars were playing South Sudan, everybody was shocked that there were actually so many fans at Kasarani on a Tuesday afternoon. Which tells you that even the Kenyan themselves were surprised that, so people can actually come to Sadia, because people had taken off. No one was interested in sports. And even the infrastructure. CAF had banned all Kenya Stadia from hosting any game. The first game to be hosted in Kenya since the ban on our stadia was the Kakamega Homeboys versus the Al Hilal Benghazi of Libya last month for the CAF Confederation Cup preliminary game. And so we come in, we find these boats leaking that badly. And so what we had to do was to stop the leaking, steady the ship. And I am very confident that we have done well. We convinced World Athletics not to ban Kenya, not by Mudomo, but by putting a solid plan on the table, backed by 3.7 billion shillings for an all-out war against doping. I sat down with Mr. Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA, and convinced him that Kenya needs to get back into the fold of international football.
How difficult was that?
It was not easy. It was certainly not easy. It took diplomacy, it took cajoling, it took commitments here and there, it took give and take, okay, quid pro quo, okay, but ultimately we were able to fix that space. Today we have a master plan for infrastructure which will be rolling out tomorrow. We have a big ceremony tomorrow to unveil the master plan for sports and arts infrastructure. Today we are even talking about Kenya bidding to host the Africa Cup of Nations. Which really tells you that in a record 10, 12 months, we've been able to stop the leaking. Now, we are resetting the compass. And order number one on resetting that compass, federations.
Federations.
That's why the other day I told the Football Federation, because that's where we have had the most difficult situation. I have told the Kenya Football Federation that elections are due next year. Let us prepare for these elections so that we can have very orderly elections. We can have free, fair, credible elections. I have told FIFA, the government of Kenya wants to work with you as the world governing body so that we can manage this process very, very effectively. That is in sync. We can have elections that are in sync with Kenyan law, but they are also in sync with the FIFA statutes. So that the government is satisfied, FIFA is satisfied, and the federation is stable and strong. Yesterday was a Sunday, but I spent my Sunday with the Aquatics Kenya, the Swimming Federation. The Swimming Federation has also been banned. I inherited a swimming federation that was banned by World Aquatics. So Kenyan swimmers...
You're lucky. Your entry is full.
Yeah. Kenyan swimmers cannot compete. They can't compete. They can't even compete for a ticket to Paris.
And what are the players told? What are the reasons that you give a very talented swimmer who has spent a long time and resources, practicing, and as you earlier said, that, Olympics is the dream.
That is
for any sporting talent. So what are those sports people told?
Let me tell you, it's just the height of irresponsibility. It is the height of irresponsibility, and it is criminal, actually, that to hold swimmers or any athlete for that matter at ransom because of your petty squabbles or selfish personal interest. It is criminal. It is unacceptable. And under this administration led by President William Ruto, it is not going to happen. And so I met the Swimming Federation yesterday. I gave them a roadmap. I expect them to roll out that roadmap. And that is a test case for all federations. We want to see free, fair, credible elections in Kenya Aquatics, the Swimming Federation, in the Football Kenya Federation, and that will be rolled across the entire sporting ecosystem.
And is that what the Sports Act expects in terms of elections?
Yes,
or
that's the minimum that the law expects.
So my question is, so if they are in conflict with the law, and I know you have background in law, so what is the next course of action? That is very automatic, because I understand that there are some federations that have never had elections for a while.
Absolutely.
So are they in conflict with the law?
They are in conflict with the law. And you see, the sad thing, the tragic thing, is that they hide behind court orders. They hide behind endless judicial action. So you call elections, someone rushes to the sports tribunal, or someone rushes to the high court. They get an injunction. Elections in swimming were supposed to have been done last month. Someone went and got an injunction.
An injunction in court?
Yes.
To slow down the process.
To slow down the process. And so one of the things we have to figure out, and one of the key areas we are dealing with as we review the Sports Act, is how to deal with that conundrum. A conundrum where the law is being flouted, but those responsible for flouting the law hide behind court orders. Yes. It's absolutely unacceptable. But I can give my guarantee that on the question of the proper management of of federations, there's no compromise. We have to give or put a premium, on good governance, on accountability, on transparency, and ensuring that the athlete is king, is queen, as the goose that lays the golden egg.
The golden egg.
And every federation, I have challenged every federation, from tennis to chess to football to athletics, that you must have a talent development agenda. Because we have had a situation where federations think they exist to trot all over the world, attending every little event happening all over the place. So federations will always come to you. Oh, we have an event in Suriname. We have an event in Samoa. We have an event in Canada. But barely do you see a federation coming with a talent development program to tell the ministry, this is our program to develop the next set of talents.
Maybe they need people who understand the science of sports to advise them, probably.
Absolutely, not just to advise them. I am challenging Kenyans who really have passion for sports
to come
get
forward.
Involved.
To come forward.
Get involved, because bad leaders are elected by good people who stay away.
So it's an indictment on the people as well.
If you stay away, then because power abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
You are a good person, you have the skill, you have the capability, you stay away, that space will be populated by the wrong people.
By somebody else.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, because you spoke about the goose that lays the golden egg. There are those who laid the golden egg many years back. And let me tell you that some of them have mentioned to me quietly that they're extremely proud of that initiative that you took.
Hongera Awards.
Yeah. But however, and especially the cash reward scheme, it's a game changer. But for continuity, because I've counted the number of times you have mentioned the word continuity. Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds like currency to you. So do you plan to establish a long-term framework that is anchored in policy so that even when you look back 20 years, you say, you know what, I was associated with that. So that these old people who brought glory, the Tikolos, the Odumbes, the Obuyas, okay, they took us to a semi-final in a game that a majority of Kenyans don't even understand the rules.
Yes.
So are you thinking of anchoring that in policy and saying, you know what, these are people we will be considering, even as we consider the upcoming talent?
Good news. It's already policy. It's already policy because the reward scheme, for instance, is something which we came into office and realized that it was hanging on presidential goodwill. So the last scheme that was being used by the ministry, for instance, is because President Uhuru Kenyatta had said, oh, let us do this for the athletes or something like that. Then we realized you can't do that. You can't operate like that. You can't operate on directives and goodwill. You need something that is solid. So we have developed the most comprehensive reward scheme you can think of. Under that scheme, we have also raised the level of rewards significantly. For instance, previously, a winner of a gold medal would be rewarded 750,000 shillings.
Yeah.
We have raised that.
It's gone up.
We have raised that to 3 million shillings. Just the other day, when our team arrived from Budapest, Faith Kipyegon, Mary Moraa, gold medal winners, each one of them received 3 million shillings for each gold. Like Faith won 2 gold medals, so she received 6 million shillings, 3 million shillings per gold medal. Okay, up from the old rate of 750,000 shillings per gold medal. Silver medalists, we raised that from 500,000 to 2 million. Bronze medalists, 350,000 to 1 million. And for breaking a world record, previously there was no scale. So you won a world record, you came, you arrived at JKIA, we did some isukuti for you, you drank some rusik, and then you went home.
Massaged your ego a little bit.
Yes, and then you went home.
And then you went back.
Today, every world record, 5 million shillings. You win a world record, you get 5 million shillings.
Straight.
Faith broke 2 world records. She received 5 million shillings for one. and a house worth 6 million shillings for the other.
That's 10 million?
Absolutely.
For smashing a record.
Agnes, our latest sensation, young 22-year-old Agnes Ngetich. Mm-hmm. Agnes just broke the world record in the 10-kilometer road race. Mm-hmm. We are preparing a ceremony for her. So Agnes, wherever you are, 5 million bob for your world record.
She gets to hear it on this show. That's wonderful.
And see, this is now a formal scheme.
Yeah.
It's a formal scheme. Whether Babu Namwamba is a cabinet secretary for sports today or not tomorrow, whoever walks into office will find it a scheme, an established scheme that is now budgeted formally. When we make budgeting for this process, it is in that scheme. One thing we have included in this scheme, one, we cleared all the outstanding arrears.
Yeah.
I told you that
it was embarrassing
10, 15 years ago.
It was embarrassing. 10
but
years.
Most significantly, we also included in this scheme honoring the legends. People like Asati, who ran way, way, way back in the 60s, 70s. We were able to honor them. People like Patrick Njiru, the Tikolos, the Odumbes. It was amazing to meet JJ Masiga.
JJ Masiga. And you played both rugby and football.
Yes.
And there's a joke that at some point you forgot when you were playing football. And you carried the ball.
and ran with it.
And ran with it. But let me ask you, because I know we have, because you also handle the youth docket. And I know there are some artists who are just listening to those numbers, 5 million, 2 million. You know, and they're probably watching this show right now. So my next question is, and we know that for the longest, artists and musicians, you know, they've been crying foul about the amount of monies that they receive in form of royalties. So I want you to tell them, because they are watching, you know, what is your ministry doing to address that long standing issue?
You know, the manner in which we have treated our artists, the way in which we have treated our creatives is really shameful, absolutely shameful. I talk to a lot of these artists. The older generation, like my brother and friend Ruben Kigame. I talk to Ruben. And Ruben tells me, I hear my music everywhere. I enter Matatu, someone is playing Huniachi. I watch, I listen to the radio, someone is playing Endanasi, okay? And I just don't see any money. I don't see any money. Why is my creativity all over the place, entertaining everybody, but there is no money? And that can be said for pretty much every artist. And so that whole system of royalties has been very badly handled, but we are fixing it. And we have taken certain measures which are really, really critical. Number one, I have gazetted new tariffs for collecting royalties. Number two, I have put in place a framework for a new tariff called blank tape levy. Blank tape levy is really, really revolutionary and is going to increase the volume of royalties. But perhaps the most significant measure is how the royalties are managed. Previously, you have bodies called collective management organizations, or CMOs.
They collect.
They collect.
Okay, on behalf of the artists.
On behalf of the artists.
Yes.
But they collect. But when you look at the manner in which the collections are structured, it is like 90% goes to administrative expenses, and then maybe 5%
goes to the goose that lays the golden egg.
So the goose that lays the golden egg sometimes gets the grand figure of 490 shillings dropping into your... It is criminal. It is absolutely criminal.
The sweat of a young talent?
Yes, it is criminal. And whoever does that should actually rot in hell. I can tell you that for real. One of the things we have done, which is really revolutionizing that space, is that I sat the three CMOs together, MCSK, Camp and Prisk, and I told them, if you do collections together and you distribute together, you will drastically cut down on administrative costs of three of you operating separately. And so we signed an MOU. I expect the collections and distribution to be streamlined under that MOU. But the silver bullet is to go fully digital.
Fully digital?
Yes. Today, before I came to the studio, I was in a meeting to discuss a new digital platform where royalties can be collected digitally and transmitted digitally.
That would be a game changer.
And we can even lock in. We can lock in to say 80% to the artist, 20% to the to administrative expenses.
Let me ask this before it slips my mind, because it's also related to the points that you're making. Is it also illegal? Because when you get into the car, if you get a lift from a friend, you're likely to tune in to songs that are coming from South Africa. I don't know what they call it. I'm a piano. Or if it's not a piano, it's some well-done song from Tanzania. Or if it's not that, it's some Nigerian who has really done some good stuff. So I don't know whether it's there in law that the local radio stations are obligated to assign a certain percentage of the songs that they play, and they should come from our local genres, our local talent. Is that an area of interest for you as well?
It is. It's huge. That is the locus classicus of this matter. That is like the heart of this matter. Because however creative our artists are, we must provide the outlet, the platform for their creativity to be projected to the consumer. And so we must, there's a policy already.
There's a policy?
Already to encourage airing of local content as opposed to foreign content. And I really want to encourage all media platforms, let us give prominence to local productions. Government on our side will make sure that we want to invest in studios. We want to invest in facilities that can enable artists to produce quality productions.
Stuff.
We have struck a deal with TikTok. We have struck a deal with
I hope you're not shutting TikTok.
YouTube.
There are no plans to shut it down.
No.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
But we are striking deals with Meta, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok for content creation, for monetization of creatives, so that whatever you put on these platforms can also translate into pesa mfukoni for you.
But let me ask you.
Yes.
If we flip it over and also look the artist straight into the eye, because I'm wondering, if there is an event that is themed around a Kenyan theme taking place in Jamaica, and then we send our artists to go and sing reggae in Jamaica, they will feel shortchanged. So is it time also to encourage the local artists to now start thinking about maybe the Kisi should start considering the Obokona when he's going to parade us, because those are the songs that tell our story better. Maybe the guy from Kavirondo or Western Belt, Nyanza Belt, is it time he plays the Benga genre on a Spanish guitar, so that when you are parading ourselves out there, then the audiences at the global front say, aha, that's a beautiful story. That's not a reggae, that's not a Jamaican story, that's not an English story, that is a Kenyan story. So do you also want to speak to the artists and encourage them that perhaps tell our story through music?
Our message to all our creatives across the whole creative industry, whether you're talking of film, music, fashion, theater, pageantry, my message to them repeatedly. One of the things I did very quickly when I came to office was to host what I call the Creative Summit, where I call all these creatives under the same roof. And the message is simple. Originality, originality, originality is what sells. Originality
and
sells.
authenticity.
And authenticity. You know the reason why you are crazy about Amapiano? Amapiano is a traditional beat of some South African community.
Yes.
Those Niger beats as original beats.
That's
of
their story.
Some Nigerian community. So you get excited about the story of another community. When in fact, Ohangla is beautiful. Ohangla is beautiful.
Wow.
Isikuti is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Obokano is beautiful.
By the way, there are even some viewers who are excited. Can I just read something there?
Sure.
They're very excited. I wanted to walk there.
Yes.
I got a bit excited as well. I wanted to go to the smart TV.
No, but it's beautiful.
And read it out. But let me read it on my phone.
Yes.
There's this guy who's, there's a gentleman here, Gaddafi Mkenya. His is not a comment, but I think he's put it in form of a question. He's asking, ask the CS, what are his plans on games, sports, trainings across the country, that is the referees, the coaches, etc. And then what are his plans on promotion of games teachers using sports. This is Jaravenilio. He's a games teacher and he's from the Eastern Belt, Machakos, is our Kwitu. But I'll also sneak in my question there. Do you vet? Is there a vetting mechanism on the coaches that we send to train our girls, national girls team like the basketball team, so that we send the message to them that that's a safe space? All right? Sports is a merit-oriented environment. So the girls need to know that their coaches are safe people. So you can tackle those three before I read the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, on the subject we are talking about authenticity and originality, there should be really no debate. Some of the best productions that have excited the music scene beyond Kenya, beats that we would hear from Maroon Commandos, for instance, okay? Or people like Daudi Kabaka, who made names beyond Kenya, or Fadhil Williams, when you speak of Malaika, okay? It is so authentic Kenyan. It's so original Kenyan. And so, even as you want to modernize your music, you know you can take a music form and modernize it.
Yeah.
That is what artists like Prince Inda have done, for instance. They have taken the Hangla bit and just souped it up a bit, and it becomes relevant to the modern market. Now, back to the question on coaches and in that whole space. Sports must be a safe space. There are a lot of young people that are coming through sports. And Talanta Hela is really, really, really about providing a platform for young talents. But as these young talents come through, who is managing them? Who is taking care of them? Who is mentoring them? Who is role modeling for them? You look at some of the athletes that are coming through lately, you see some really young ones. Look at a girl like Faith Cherotich, the bronze medal winner in Budapest in 3,000 meter steeplechase. She's just 19.
Imagine.
Okay? This Agnes Ngetich that I just mentioned.
She's 20?
She's 22.
22.
She just broke the world record in the 10-kilometer race. Emmanuel Wenyonyi just won the Diamond League final race the other day in 800 meters. He's 20. These are incredibly young people. Simon Koech, who has just won the 3,000 meter steeplechase. Young people, very, very young people. We must make sure that the coaches, the managers, the trainers, the camp managers, where these young people are training, are safe spaces.
They are safe spaces.
They are safe spaces.
So is there a mechanism of, going through, looking at backgrounds?
Yes, this is something we have to work with the federations.
Yeah.
I must admit that this is a conversation we have already started. And it's not just about safety. It is also merit. You need these young people to know that if you are good, you'll have a chance. So that everybody knows there is a fair chance to put on the Team Kenya uniform.
The Team Kenya uniform.
To wear the national flag, colors. And that can only be done by coaches who do not look at any other consideration other than merit.
Are there Chapter 6 obligations? Would that be helpful?
It would be. And Chapter 6 obligations apply to everybody.
Yes.
They apply to Ababu Namwamba, the cabinet secretary. They apply to the principal secretary. They must apply to those who head federations and to those who lead camps.
Yes, let me read the next one. Na hii watu wote wanakupea tu congratulations. I was thinking somebody would fire a missile here. But anyway, there's Korir Nicholas,
yes,
who's saying, first, I want to congratulate the cabinet secretary for his good work. Secondly, is that why is it necessary in Kenya to corrupt some individuals in order to get to the next level? For example, school activities and sports. Nowadays, they're paying 300K. There's even a figure. There's even a figure. This is Korir Nicholas.
To be selected.
Yeah.
So it is
to be selected.
It is something that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And even the selection of national teams. And you see, coaches need to know, if you get it wrong with selection, you compromise the performance of the team. So give opportunity to the best there is.
You know what is it here?
Yeah.
This issue that Korir has raised. And remember earlier on, I also gave you my 3. I told you, number 1, you have a radical muscle. Number 2, you have the diplomacy to boot. And number 3, you have the goodwill from HE himself. So when you hear these stories like Korir's, and you couple them with the stories that we had from your predecessor, about the dark corners within the ministry. And these people, I remember even there was a time HE said, nasikia kuna watu kwa ministries fulani hata wakiwa transferred wanakaa ngo.
Yes.
But these young folks are looking at you, and there's a sense in which they're feeling perhaps this is our liberator, and they would like to hear from the CS himself what steps he's going to take to dismantle those cartels.
Tom, however beautiful an agenda we may have, if we do not dismantle these cartels and scatter them to the 4 winds, it will all amount to nothing. Absolutely. We'll be engaging in a zero-sum game that will not result in anything useful for the country. So anybody, whether it is at the ministry or in the federations or in the training camps, that is not towing the line, they just must go. We have to protect the goose that lays the golden egg. That I am very clear.
And they also
my number 1 loyalty is to the sportman and woman.
And woman.
Yes.
So that includes also the national team, Harambee Stars.
Yes.
Because I would want to know, when are they next playing, by the way, at home?
Harambee Stars are scheduled to start their World Cup qualifiers in November.
In November.
Their first 2 games in those qualifiers will be away to Gabon and Seychelles. And so their first home game in the qualifiers is actually next year.
Next year.
But we are planning a couple of other build-up matches before the qualifiers start in November. So we are likely to have a couple of, during the next international break, next month in October, we should be able to organize another couple of build-up games. Because, even for Harambee Stars, we are rebuilding. We are rebuilding. COVID devastated football, and then that was followed immediately after with the FIFA suspension.
Yeah, by the way.
And so it's a rebuilding job. So I would tell Kenyans, you watched Harambee Stars play Qatar away in Doha. A few days later, you watched them stumble against South Sudan here at home. I can tell Kenyans that losing to South Sudan is not the most pleasant thing in town. Actually, you can look at it as a new law.
Yeah.
But for me, as a lover of sports and as a leader in sports, I would rather the national team stumbles in a friendly game. I would rather you make mistakes in a build-up game, because watch that goal scored against Harambee Stars with South Sudan. It's actually an error by our defender, Akumu.
Yeah.
He gets that ball, and anybody can make that kind of Harry Maguire kind of errors. you can make that kind of error. So that error happens. It is not intended.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that could happen to anybody.
But also, Waziri, yeah?
Yes.
Because we also have to look at the psychosocial elements. It's also possible that this player's mind of set, they have some issues, some teething issues that I'm sure will attract your attention.
One of the things that I have noticed, and it is one of those things we need to work on, is that Harambee Stars seems to be very tense while playing at home.
Again, there could be some issues in the bucket.
Certainly, but I'm telling you that's one of the issues I have noticed.
Okay.
Is that when they play away, they seem to be more at ease and a bit tense. That happens to a lot of teams, by the way. But it is not a disaster. In the same week that Harambee Stars were losing to South Sudan at home, the former World Cup champions Germany were being walloped 4-1 by Japan at home.
Give me your final comments and tell us what your crystal ball is telling you in the next by February, March. These are the changes that we'll be expecting.
Tom, let me use my final minutes to tell Kenyans that the panacea for fixing sports in this country lies in a pipeline for developing talents. And that is why I call upon Kenyans to support the Talanta Hela initiative. Talanta Hela really is about 3 things: identifying talent, sharpening that talent, and then turning that talent into a livelihood. And I believe that the program we have started, especially the investment in schools, Tom, you may not know this, but all games and activities that have taken place in schools this year, the Kenya Schools Drama and Film Festival, the Kenya Music Festival, the Kenya Schools Ball Games have all been funded by this ministry to the tune of 267 million Kenya shillings. That crowd you saw at Buhungu, it was really because of the investment this ministry has done. And that is the way to go. The national talent camp that brought our youngsters here, the 3 boys we have taken to Spain last week, Aldrin Kibet, Alvin Kasavuli, Amos Wanjala, that is the way to go. And the partnership we are building with Nastic Soccer Academy in Spain, Monteverde Academy in the US, that is the way to go.
And you know what? Yes, that's the best place to end this interview. I want to thank you so much, CS Ababuna Mwamba, in charge of the Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts docket. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back, of course, with more news. Don't go away.
Time to review the journey in implementing the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. What is your assessment of the government's performance? Will they ace the performance test? Tune in to KBC News at 9 p.m. for the government scorecard.
Tafadhali. Well, I hope Dingo amekupatia habari kwamba lawyer alikuwa hapa jana. And very soon Abel wangu atakuja hapa kuishi na sisi. Itakuwa ndoa yetu si ya kubahatisha tena. We will be a family. Oh yes. That is the face I want to see for the rest of my life.
Hapa hakuna cha kurelax. Baba na mama kila siku wagombana huko juu. Hapa vurugu mwanzo mwisho. Mama mdogo naye yuko lakini yeye naye ana yake kabisa, mara yuko mara hayuko.
Mama njoo huku, mimi nakuhitaji.
Welcome back now. Moving on, the Communications Authority of Kenya Board has suspended Ezra Chiloba as the Director General. In a memo sent to staff Monday in the evening, the CAK Board announced that Christopher Wambua has replaced Chiloba as the Director General in an acting capacity. Chiloba was appointed only 1 year ago, if you remember, as the Director General. He previously served as the Chief Executive Officer of IEBC. Old Jabet Market, that up there in Laikipia County, is the very latest market to be connected to the free public Wi-Fi hotspot. Information, Communications and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo said connecting markets right across is part of transforming the lives of people at the bottom of the social pyramid. Here's that report.
ya kukaribisha wageni.
Na sisi kama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza tukiongozwa na Rais William Samoei Ruto tuko na mpango ya kuweka hizi miradi za wifi katika masoko kiasi ya 25,000 katika kila pembe ya nchi yetu ya Kenya. Vile vile tunataka kusaidia vijana na wasichana wetu wale wamekosa kazi wapate masomo ya kidijitalia na vile vile wapate kazi.
Na kulingana na vile rais wetu alituahidi kwa yule mrengo na mpango wetu wa serikali wa bottom up economic transformation, na wahakikishia ya kwamba hata tukiwa Nairobi tunaangalia maneno ya maendeleo, na mnaona hata mimi ninaanzia sana Jerusalem, lazima tuanzie nyumbani.
A number of seed merchants have been arrested in Trans Nzoia County for distributing fake seeds. The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service Managing Director Theophilus Muthui says 15 tons of the condemned seed has been confiscated, urging farmers to only purchase seeds at the accredited seed distributors.
The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service says it is stepping up its seed surveillance efforts as farmers start preparations for planting. This is after KEFIS confiscated fake seeds consignments in Trans Nzoia County after unscrupulous seed trader distributed uncertified seeds to unsuspecting farmers.
We have come across the information of fake seed, especially for maize seed. We have gone round and been able to arrest those people involved in faking seed, packaging seeds in various countries, and we urge the public to be able to bring to our attention any information which can lead to arrest of those people who are doing that unscrupulous business.
KEFIS Managing Director Theophilus Muthui has warned farmers against purchasing seeds from unlicensed traders and only purchase KEFIS labeled seeds.
For those seed packages which are less than 5 kilos, there's a KEFIS sticker on it. You can be able to scratch, you get that number, and after you get that number, you send it to an SMS which is written on the sticker, and the farmer will be able to know whether that seed is genuinely inspected by KEFIS or not. If you don't get any message on the same, don't buy that particular seed.
Speaking during the 4th International Phytosanitary Conference, players in the export market urged farmers to adhere to strict international market phytosanitary standards to ensure Kenya horticultural produce retains its new markets.
We have learned enough lessons from these strict international markets, strict standards that guide fresh produce trade.
The main aim is to prevent introduction of new and foreign pests, and if by bad luck they are introduced, they should not establish, and if they establish, how fast we can respond to their management.
This comes as the first avocado shipment to India is expected to hit the Asian national market on Wednesday, with Kenya finalizing avocado export agreements with South Korea and the US. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Usiwe mtazamaji pekee, shiriki kwenye Lucky Game na pia wewe unaweza jishindia kama Sheila.
Nimeshinda TV 55 inch. Nimeshinda
na imefika star 570 hash. Chagua Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Choose one of the boxes ambayo unahisi kwamba iko na bahati yako. Cheza sasa hivi mahali popote wakati wowote. Kumbuka ni star 570 hash. Jishindie. Shinda pesa moto moto.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Mohamed. Let's get the sport. And the national women's soccer team, the Harambee Starlets, have completed their training ahead of their upcoming two-legged 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Cameroon. The team leaves for Douala tomorrow, aiming to register stellar performance in both games.
Starlets intensify their training with every player eyeing a slot in the travelling squad. Starlets is scheduled to depart for Cameroon tomorrow ahead of their first leg, which is set to be played on September 22nd in Douala. The team will return home on September 24th in time for their second leg match on September 26th.
Our first hurdle is our match against Cameroon, first leg on 22nd, second leg on 26th. That is the reality that we have right now. If we go past this hurdle, we'll go past all other hurdles. So I'm starting with this one. Then we're pushing it so that it all goes well. If all goes well, then I believe that we shall make more bigger and better steps.
Should Harambee Starlets emerge the aggregate winners of the two-legged qualifier, they will face either Gabon or Botswana in the second round, scheduled between November 27th and the 5th of December this year.
For me, naweza sema it's tough. Na tunajua Cameroon si wa rahisi, but for us tumeenda huko, unajua football siku hizi iko ni game ya 90 plus. So sisi tunaenda kule, tunapambana, tunacheza venye technical bench yetu ametufunza, then na hope tutatoka na win. Yeah.
Tunaelewa Cameroon ni timu kubwa hadi kwa history, lakini pia tuko na history yetu. Tunaenda kama Kenya, timu Harambee Starlets, na tunaenda kupush. Atufuatilia hiyo historia yao. Sisi tunaenda kama sisi, na pia sisi tuongeze kwa historia yetu.
The victor of the second round will secure an automatic qualification for the 2024 African Women's Cup of Nations due in Morocco. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendo.
Now, world silver medalist Emmanuel Wanyonyi clocks a world leading time of 1 minute 42.8 seconds to win the men's 800 meters and claim his maiden Diamond League trophy at the Prefontaine Classic in Oregon in the United States. Meanwhile, 10,000 meters champion Gudav Tsegay of Ethiopia shattered the world 5,000 meters record that was previously held by Faith Kipyegon after clocking 14 minutes 0.21 seconds.
Indeed, the tall world silver medalist Emmanuel Wanyonyi stunned world 800-meter champion Marco Arop to take the win in the Prefontaine Classic. Wanyonyi clocked 1 minute 42.80 seconds to finish first ahead of reigning world champion Arop of Canada, who finished second, while Djamel Sadejati of Algeria finished third.
The Kenyan is just charging ahead. He takes it 1:42.79.
Another Kenyan in the race, Wycliffe Kinyamal, finished ninth.
Good pacemakers when you're on chasing world record.
Meanwhile, 10,000 meters world champion Gudav Tsegay of Ethiopia shattered Kenya's world 5,000 meters champion Faith Kipyegon world record in a time of 14 minutes and 00.21 seconds to win the race ahead of bronze medalist Beatrice Chebet of Kenya, who finished second.
I think she's just going to miss 14, but she smashes, she pulverizes the world record.
Chebet's compatriot Lilian Kasait finished third.
Two as well. And they'll be interested to see.
In another race, former world 800-meter champion Ading Mu clocked a world-leading time and personal best of 1 minute 54.9 seconds to win the women's 800 meters race to stun world champion Mary Moraa. Moraa seemed to be tired with 200 meters to go, and she ended up finishing a distant fourth. This was Moraa's first loss of the season in women's 800 meters.
Mo's going to take the win here. It's quick. 1:54.97.
King Orimwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On on Saturday. You're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line. Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Usiwe mtazamaji pekee, shiriki kwenye Lucky Game na pia wewe unaweza jishindia kama Sheila.
Nimeshinda TV 55 inch. Nimeshinda
Na imefika star 570 hash. Chagua Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Choose one of the boxes ambayo unahisi kwamba iko na bahati yako. Cheza sasa hivi mahali popote wakati wowote. Kumbuka ni star 570 hash. Jishindie.
Shinda pesa moto moto.
Now, welcome back. Now, England edged closer to the Rugby World Cup quarterfinals, but little to impress in a scrappy 34-12 win over Japan in Nice. Meanwhile, Fiji beat Australia 22-15 for just the third time in their history as they blew Pool C wide open with a thrilling win at the Rugby World Cup.
Getting close. Lewis Ludlam forced his way over from close range for the only try of a first half littered with England errors. Gets the ball. Rikia Masuda's boot had Japan within a point at 13-12 early in the second half before a fortuitous try from captain Courtney Lewis. Freddie Stewart collected a cross kick to dot down deftly, and any hopes Japan had of another Rugby World Cup upset to follow their famous camping of South Africa in 2015 before Joe Marchant dived over in the final play of the match. Meanwhile, Fiji beat Australia 22-15 for just the third time in their history as they blew Pool C wide open with a thrilling win at the Rugby World Cup. Fine kicking from Simeone Kurivoli put Fiji 12-8 up at halftime before Joshua Tuisova crossed after the restart. Lalakai Foketi went over late on to cut the deficit to 22-15, but Eddie Jones' side could not mount a comeback. Fiji's win over the Wallabies moves them above their opponents into second place in Pool C.
Marnie will push it wide, but it goes dead.
And Great Britain reached the Davis Cup finals last 8 in remarkable fashion as Dan Evans and Neil Skupski saved 4 match points before winning a nerve-wracking decider against France. Great Britain will now go on to the knockout phase of the men's competition, known as the Final 8, in the Spanish city of Malaga in November.
In front of a partisan British crowd in Manchester, Evans and Kupsi beat Nicholas Mahat and Edward Roger Vaseline 1-6, 7-6, 7-6. Oh, he's got it. Evans won from a set and a breakdown in the singles, but Cameroon Norrie lost. Evans and Kupsi, rowed on by the home fans, recovered to seal the victory.
It's Great Britain that are moving on to Malaga.
4 nations, Britain, Australia, France and Switzerland, played in the round-robin event at Manchester's AO Arena, with the top 2 countries going through. Britain, who last won the Davis Cup in 2015, finished as Group B winners and will play Serbia or Italy when the draw is made on Tuesday. Australia progresses runners-up with defending champions Canada, the Czech Republic, Finland and Netherlands completing the lineup. Great Britain will now go on to the knockout phase of the men's team competition, known as the Final 8 in the Spanish city of Malaga in November.
Superb.
And so that's the sport for tonight, and be sure to catch up with us tomorrow, even as we get the reactions from Shuja, who got back to the country tonight after qualifying for the Paris Olympics. My name is Daniel Wahome.
And I'm Mboya. That's all we had for you on the day that Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya, Ezra Chiloba, was suspended and Christopher Mboya appointed in an acting capacity. On behalf of everybody in the back end, the Prime Edition team, including our 2 sign language interpreters, remember, today it's the International Deaf Awareness Week. I want to thank you for watching. Good night. We'll be back tomorrow.
The future is hands-on, and Sensei College is at the front line of technical institutes in Kenya, offering practical and skill-based courses accredited by all concerned bodies, TVETA, NTSA and NITA. Sensei College offers driving and plant operator, cosmetology, fashion and design, mechanics, hydroponics and irrigation,